Whoa, natural 20!
Nice!
Imagine the perfect character. Strong, capable, intelligent, charismatic, wise, a skilled expert that rarely fails, a shrewd warrior that makes their own luck, a tactful entertainer everybody adores, good-natured, pure of heart, secure in themselves, and perfectly balanced.
Are you bored yet?
I am.
While larger-than-life characteristics make adventurers unlike ourselves fun to play precisely because they are unlike ourselves, Cool Guy winners make me yawn. And they make all the other people at the table yawn too. Trust me, I've made a few in my time. Which is why I've come to enjoy implementing drawbacks for characters. For all characters, players and prominent NPCs alike. And I don't just mean character flaws. Flaws are just the tip of the proverbial penis iceberg. I prefer to run a table where all characters have deeper issues to work through, just like the players behind them.
Just like real life.
For instance, as comfortable as I might seem in the realm of D&D, I absolutely freeze when it comes to navigating the adult world of responsibilities and societal expectations. Put me in some sort of social setting like a family picnic or work function where I have to present me, and I become hypervigilant, inundated with mental load, and overwhelmed to a point of panic.
Hi there! So what do you do?
And as painful as afflictions like that can be in real life, it's kind of what makes people interesting. The abnormal, the atypical, the broken are traits that breathe life into a personality, I reckon. Some of the most interesting people you know are probably a far cry from being well-adjusted to the world. Think of famous fictional characters too. The most interesting ones have deep flaws that create conflict in themselves and in their relationships. And all stories are about conflict resolution, even if that resolution ends in tragedy. Drawbacks are more than just the vices of a character's background, which are, let's be honest, easily overlooked. Drawbacks are like the opposite of feats. They have a mechanical implication for the character under the rules framework, affecting their abilities in given situations. Earlier editions of D&D incorporated mechanical drawbacks, as do other systems, sometimes in exchange for additional feats, which I love. But they seem scarce in 5e, limited to things like a drow's sunlight sensitivity, or the wild magic sorcerer's wild magic surge. Okay, I'm gonna cast Fireball. Features that are part and parcel of the race or class, but not the character's personality. Homebrew, it seems, however, is where drawbacks really come out to play. I'll give you some of my examples. I like to differentiate between simple mechanical drawbacks that are more applicable during turn-based combat and the like, and out-of-combat drawbacks that have more role-playing value. Let's take one of my NPCs as an example of a character with a simple drawback that usually only shows up in combat. Finch Hawthorne is an archery prodigy and medalist. A teenage pariah with something to prove, he gets exceptionally butthurt when he rolls a natural 1 on his longbow attacks. Don't look at me, God! So, I made a special drawback for him called Own Worst Critic. If Finch rolls a 1 on the d20 on his longbow attack, he must succeed on a DC 10 wisdom saving throw or become stunned until the end of his next turn. This drawback might seem simple on the surface of it, but it makes thematic sense for Finch's character, and thus has the potential for dramatic and humorous moments. The player characters then have the opportunity to help encourage Finch and teach him to rein in his ego and that there's more to life than success. Or you could be nyctophobic, which is a fear of the dark. If you are in total darkness or blinded, you suffer from the frightened and paralyzed conditions. Or you could have an old injury. If you take the dash action, you must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, or have your speed reduced by 10 feet.
Come here, you bastard! Oh, nah. Slay it yourself, I'm done.
All reduction to your speed from this effect ends when you finish a 1-minute rest, or if you benefit from any healing. Additionally, you can only travel at a slow pace when traveling by foot. Or for more role-playing focused drawbacks, which I really like, you could have the following. Misanthrope. Before entering a humanoid settlement whose population is 50 or more, you must succeed on a DC 18 wisdom saving throw, or you can't willingly enter that settlement for 8 hours. Nope. You must repeat the saving throw at the end of any long rest you finish in such a settlement, leaving immediately on a failure. Or hedonist, whenever you spend a day without spending at least 1 hour on entertainment or pleasure. You must make a DC 20 wisdom saving throw at the end of your next long rest. If you fail, you gain 1 level of exhaustion when you finish your long rest. This exhaustion lasts 1d6 hours or until you engage in sufficient entertainment or pleasure. Or you could play with things that aren't dependent on saving throws, such as refusing to use magic items because your family was killed by artificers, or refusing to wear armor because it's against your religion's tenets, or being gullible, so always paying 10% more at inns and shops. Then, of course, there's ways your character might act with addiction or temper, distrust, discrimination, PTSD, or any number of phobias, or whatever. The possibilities are endless because the ways in which we suck are endless. Use the human race as inspiration.
I just want to be a cool superhero. I'm here to escape the reality of my unheroic self and nihilistic existence.
I get that. Of course I get that. Intimately. And let me say up front that I know this isn't for everyone. Sometimes you just need to be that one-dimensional berserker hacking and slashing into mindless undead, or more importantly, heartless undead, or helping Mrs. Butterfart renovate her tavern. It's a game after all, and I'm not here to say any form of entertainment is more valid than another. But for those of us who are chasing that deeper, immersive experience of the human condition, giving your characters real human shortcomings and weaknesses is a really effective way of getting that gritty realism under your fingernails. And it's fun. A drawback is a consistent reminder that the character has some crap to work through, which can open all sorts of curious avenues for an enriched role-playing experience. And you know I'm all about that immersion. But remember, your character's quirks aren't the same as drawbacks. Reacting in an unusual way whenever you see a wooden spoon, for example, does little to enrich your character. I actually had a character of my own that did this. Yeah. We live and we grow. The point is to give your character something they suffer from under the framework of the game in the same way that feats benefit them. A deliberate penalization that inconveniences them, and by extension inconveniences the party, but in a meaningful way that helps paint a picture of who they are. Ooh, waiting for the plane to pass, just waiting for the plane to pass. Ooh. I live under a flight path. It's great for filming. No, it really is. I'm not being sarcastic, it's actually fantastic. No, I love it. Yeah. What not to do is create drawbacks that directly impinge upon the other players in ways that are just annoying, such as being that repugnant kleptomaniac that always steals other players' stuff, or always gets into fight with the other players, or other types. I'm going to roll to seduce Luna Seal.
Wait, what?
Natural 20. But that's just general tabletop etiquette and common sense, I hope. Remember, cooperation comes first. I actually like to compensate for a player taking a drawback by giving them a special feat unique to their character, usually something related to the drawback itself. Let's call it a silver lining. For instance, a character that has trouble controlling her magic and accidentally damages her nearby allies when casting a spell might learn over time to supercharge her allies' attacks instead. Can you imagine this moment happening for the first time? It could be a powerful scene of catharsis and transformation for her character, maybe right as her allies are at death's door. Or in the example of Finch's character, I gave him a silver lining that happens on a critical hit to compensate for the significant drawback that occurs on his natural ones. A silver lining that is unique to him and a positive consequence of his obsessive dedication to his archery. I named Finch's special feature Splitting the Arrow. If Finch scores a critical hit against a character that he can see and that he has already hit with his longbow attack this combat, any allies of his that can see the target gain a bonus 1d6, which they can then add to any roll they make before the start of Finch's next turn. You can imagine them getting super inspired when he Robin Hoods that arrow. Or there's the classic critical role example of one of Sam Riegel's characters having a drinking problem which gives her disadvantage on certain rolls, but advantage on saving throws against being frightened, which plays into the character's name, not the brave. And for certain drawbacks, you could even implement a way for the character to slowly work through them, if appropriate or applicable. Excuse you? I think subtracting a character's proficiency bonus from their drawback saving throw is a good starting place, which passively gets better as they level up. Or the DM could simply lower or raise the DC, or even change the mechanics of the drawback entirely, depending on how the player character roleplayed it. You could even overlap a drawback with a silver lining by giving them chances to activate, with the odds improving over time. As you can see, the DM has a very important job here. Again, the most important job, because she needs to provide a coherent and smooth platform for her players to express their personalities whilst not bogging down the game. And that can be really difficult, especially while simultaneously managing every other part of the game! And just like being responsible for facilitating the player character's abilities, the DM also needs to facilitate the character's disabilities, for the want of a better term. It can actually even be more important if you're running a campaign that's heavy on role-playing and drama. So it's prudent, I think, for a player to work with their DM at character creation to co-design unique drawbacks and possible silver linings. The player can express how they want to role-play the drawback, if they want it resolved or how quickly, and the DM can do their usual balancing act of not making it too overpowered, or underpowered in this case, and making sure it's not going to be too consequential to the campaign itself. That way, the player knows what's expected of them, and the DM knows how to tend to the player's role-playing needs. I mean, this should happen anyway. The DM and the players can continue to talk outside the game about the direction for a character, whether or not and how they might resolve a drawback, or if they're brave enough and want the traumatic events of the game to give their character more drawbacks as the story progresses.
Yeah, thanks for seeing me, DM. Look, I have a bone to pick. You know when you make me choose between saving the entire party or saving my special goblin friend? I would like to have a drawback for resentment for the entire party for the rest of the campaign.
Then when it comes to the game itself, the DM should be mindful of creating situations and NPCs that engage the player's drawbacks. And the players should be mindful of how their drawbacks affect their behavior in a relevant situation. And of course, it should go without saying that by this point, the DM and players should already be aware of any hardline triggers among the people at the table, so exercise caution and consideration when creating drawbacks. Drawbacks make a character vulnerable. And just like how in real life, we connect with each other by being vulnerable, our characters can learn to be vulnerable too. Which will not only lead to a more cohesive adventuring party over time, where they care deeply about each other's interwoven stories, but forge them as a family. And to get a wee sappy on ya, a beautiful side effect of this is that the players become closer friends too. And sometimes, by being vulnerable as someone else first, you can create an openness among the players themselves that otherwise might not have occurred away from the table.
Whoa, natural 20!
Nice!
Role-playing games license us to be vulnerable without our own problems being the subject. We can pretend to address personal issues of our characters, inspiring us to look in the mirror. Ah! And more importantly for the game itself, it creates rich characters that are more recognizable as real people. Beautifully complex people. So when your character fails their final death saving throw, or admits their Oedipus complex to their parents, or admits their undying love for that special NPC.
I killed them all. I did it all for you, just so we could be together. I love you more than the moon, the sun, all the stars, more than all the whores. I love you too.
With drawbacks, it's that much more impactful, that much more meaningful, that much more
Immersive.
And did you know that attuning to the orb of immersion, it only takes one action? The only curse, I promise, is that you'll see my face pop up in your feed. But let's be honest, some curses are blessings in disguise, right?
Mouth breather. That's a Skyrim reference.
Diodo!
That might have been it.
Well, all right, dear love. Use your words, son.
Meow.
No.
Meow. Okay, it's probably enough,
It's
right?
probably. Right in my face.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet! Natural 20! It actually is a natural 20!
Nice.